It's time to go out and search for supplies. In an old masonry house, an ordinary-looking boy sat on the floor of an empty room and sat up. He muttered to himself, lifted the bedboard, took a piece of food with him from the storage room, opened the door and walked out. The streets are unexpectedly tidy. Apart from dust, it is difficult to see other household waste. Along the street, at the end, there is a big house with an open door, like a small manor. The teenager wandered outside the house for a while, leaning against the wall, his eyes were blank, and he didn't know what to think in his mind. "Pam, it's so early." A youth's voice came from behind the boy. The boy's good voice was not surprising, so he responded. "Yet. Varuni, the other companions haven't arrived yet, just wait." The visitor shrugged his shoulders, and replied okay. As if he didn't care. He stood quietly leaning against the wall, just like the boy just now, as if he was waiting for someone. About 10 minutes later, the last person who was waiting arrived. One of the young people with a ponytail said like a team leader. "We're all here, let's go. We'll set off immediately after getting the protective suits." The group of 7 walked in without a word. After a while, 7 people in protective suits came out of the house and walked out towards the outermost edge of the street. The outermost part of the street is full of garbage, and vultures hover in the sky. This is a place called Meteor Street, which is isolated from the outside world and allows anything to be placed here. In this world, whatever is abandoned, the residents here will accept it. Pam, a resident living in Meteor Street, relied on the search for a group of 7 people outside, the team he joined, to search for various useful materials together, and then survive. And make sure you won't be singled out and bullied. "It's here, let's start searching. We'll look for it on this side today." Daryl, the young man with a ponytail in the lead, emphasized. Pam and the others responded with a yes, then spread out and turned over a large pile of garbage. When Pam started to move, there were already many people wearing the same protective suits around the garbage mountain rummaging for things and finding a place where no one was there, and Pam also started a new day's work. Recalling his previous life, although he was a standard anime nerd, he had also imagined that he possessed all kinds of powerful powers in anime and traversed the world. But after thinking about it, Pam could swear to God that he never thought he would travel to such a world. From these 2 names, Meteor Street and Abandoned Place, Pam knew that he must have crossed into the world of full-time hunter. In Pam's concept, this world is a super dangerous world. It is not an exaggeration to kill people without blinking an eye, and human life is like a waste. But even if I know that the world is very dangerous, what can I do to change it? It's almost noon, and the sun is hanging high in the sky, dispelling a lot of smog over the garbage dump. Unexpected gains are always surprising. Looking at the box of things in front of him, Pam was overjoyed, so he waved to Varuni who was not far away, and made a gesture. After a while, Daryl and the others slowly approached. "Captain, look!" Varuni said to Daryl as if taking credit. When they saw the 2 boxes of 60 expired cans, everyone laughed. Daryl said to Pam, "Have you eaten? Or ate? What are you waiting for?" Varuni picked up one without saying a word, opened the lid directly, and was about to pour it into his mouth. Everyone is welcome to follow suit. "Pam, thank you." "You're welcome, they're all companions." Everyone smiled at Pam, and then a few people who didn't know the taste of meat devoured it, even Pam was no exception. It looks a lot, but it tastes very little. In the end, only 15 of the 2 boxes of canned meat were left, and the 7 people ate 45 of them. Seeing that everyone had finished eating, Daryl said directly, "The rest, 1 person will keep one for a while, and the others will be exchanged for other things." Everyone knows that although meat is good, it is important to live. I have no problem with what Daryl said. "Have joined. Pam, you've done the most credit today. You account for 40% of the things you changed." Do you have any opinions? No. It's thanks to Pam that we can eat meat today, and this meal will be worth the total harvest of a few of them in 2 or 3 days. What's more, only 40% of today's harvest. Everyone has been together for 4 or 5 years, and Pam has joined for more than 2 years. This has not happened before. It's just that it's not directly divided into 4%. Daryl, you found something, so happy. Share some good things with me. An inappropriate voice came from behind, and I saw a man wearing only a protective mask walking from the shadow of the garbage pusher came out. Pam and the others also recognized the man. Daryl looked gloomy at the person who came. Varuni was the most impulsive, and said angrily to the man, "Why, I won't go looking for it. If you dare to grab it again, we will definitely kill you today, so, you don't give it." Haha, the man smiled at Varuni. Pam and the others also had a gloomy look on their faces. The people who came here were the tyrants who rarely appeared in this area. They were loners, and they asked them directly for low-level materials. They also found some good things last time. Was snatched away by the present. A few of them are not without resistance, but 7 to 1, complete defeat. Varuni was the one who was beaten the worst, because he found what was at that time. Velani, don't be impulsive. Before Daryl could speak, Pam whispered to Varuni. Then he said to the man, "Kent, I found this thing today, you have to take it." "Yes, oh. Then I'm welcome." The man is also Kent and is not polite. Hearing this, Varuni looked unhappy and looked at him, and Daryl also whispered Varuni. "People." Daryl thought this was a burst of helplessness. "Kent, you got that thing, right?" As a traveler, Patch knows that in this world, he has a special ability called mind. Although he has all kinds of cultivation memories about mindfulness, Pam can't practice it. Because he has not opened his sperm hole at all, his life energy is released, and he has a lot of theories but can't put them into practice. "Oh. You know?" Kent asked back when he heard Pam's words. "I know. I also know how to make it stronger and use it." Pam is directly Wangzai. As a traveler, since knowing that this is the full-time hunter world, Pam wants to learn to read all the time, but he has never been able to open his sperm hole and perform baptism and awakening. "Yes. Take it out." Kent didn't show any expression when he heard Pam's words, just continued to ask for supplies. Listening to the conversation between the two, the people around them looked suspicious and could not understand at all. When it came to the rest of the canned meat, Kent didn't stay, he turned around and left. After watching Kent leave, the most impatient Varuni asked Pam, "What are you talking about?" Varuni knew that he was impulsive, but not stupid. Asked directly. Daryl also looks like a curious baby. Seeing the appearance of several companions, Pam wanted to laugh and said directly, "It's nothing, it's just Kent's secret." A few people looked at Pam and didn't want to say more, and didn't bother. Daryl gave the order directly, and the work continued. Although everyone didn't say it, there were ripples in the heart of the secret that Patch said. In the evening, the protective clothing was returned, and the found supplies were handed over to the 7th floor. After the remaining 3 floors were divided among the 7 people, Pam did not take away the 4th floor, but only took 2 floors and left. As a person from a great kingdom, Pam also knows how to get along with others. The principle of not suffering from the few but suffering from the inequity. Seeing Kent in the shadow of the house, Pam just smiled. "Come in, remember to close the door." Kent, who closed the door casually, didn't speak to Pam who was facing him, just stared at Pam quietly. Pam looked at Kent and asked casually, "How did you wake up?" Pam didn't want to miss this opportunity to wake up, so he would say things that confuse people around him when he was in the garbage dump during the day. Hearing Pam's words, Kent couldn't help exuding a kind of pressure. After Pam felt it, he couldn't help feeling a kind of fear and despair in his heart. Seeing Pam's pale and sweaty reaction, Kent couldn't help feeling disappointed. Do you really know? Kent asked a second time. Pam isn't too long-winded. Say, read. Without waiting for Kent to make any moves, he continued, about mindfulness, you must first understand his 4 basic principles, namely, entanglement, refinement, elimination, and hair. Do you know? Pam asked directly. I don't know. Hearing Kent's answer, Pam's pale face cracked, and the corner of his mouth cracked. You help me to open the fine hole, I will teach you the 4 basic elements of recitation, and that is how to improve it. Okay, but I don't know what to do. When the trading conditions were reached, Pam directly told Kent about the skills of entanglement and refinement. You can try it first. Kent was not polite after hearing this. He sat on the ground and ran the exercise. Pam also sat on the ground and faced Kent. About half an hour later, Kent woke up from the training state, looked at Pam with shining eyes, and asked directly, what about Ju and Fa? Looking at the anxious Kent, Pam was also amused. Help me open the sperm hole first, and I'll teach you later. How? Kent was a little impatient. It's very simple. Kent sat on Pam, who was sitting with his back to him, and put his hands on Patch's back. According to the method just described in Pam, he directly snorted, and the whole body's chi was injected into Pam's body through his hands. Pain, it hurts. Pam never imagined that it would be so painful to forcibly open the sperm hole. He endured the excruciating pain that would make one pass out. He felt the chi injected into his body by Kent. But the body surface is like a small bubble, impermeable. Pam felt that his sperm hole was still difficult to open. With the determination to succeed if he failed, he gritted his teeth and whispered to Kent sitting behind him, "Go on, do your best." When Kent heard Pam's roar, he also gritted his teeth and poured all his anger into Pam's body in an instant. After finishing, the whole figure sat on the spot, breathing heavily, as if withered. The next moment, like an exploding balloon, something unknown opened up in the whole body, the pain also receded like a tide, and there was a warm feeling around the body like sitting by the fire in winter. Feel the chi that surrounds yourself, and it has a feeling of being immortal and wanting to die. Pam did not worry about any mistakes, and directly transported the 4 lines, the skill of entanglement. Let the explosive gas linger on the surface of the body. About 5 minutes later, Pam finally initially kept the chi on the surface of his body. Ha ha ha! Lao Tzu finally woke up. In just 5 minutes, Pam left the burst of chi on the surface of his body and completed his awakening. What about end and hair? Kent saw Pam's appearance and knew that Pam had successfully fully awakened, and directly asked Pam for the remaining 2 skills. Pam didn't hide his secrets, and directly told Kent about the basic 4 elements and the skills of condensation that he knew. After the transaction was completed, Kent turned and left. Pam didn't hold back either. Feeling the lingering breath, Pam felt a burst of happiness. Lie directly on the bed, and continued the practice of entanglement. After a night of silence, 3 months later. After 3 months of practice, Pam enjoyed the joy of getting stronger all the time, feeling all his energy and mastery of the 3 major acts, and he couldn't help but feel very happy. Looking at the few leaves in his hand, Patch couldn't wait to go back to the house where he lived and start today's practice plan. The busy day is over, and today I will test my ability to read. Pam returned to the house, his mind turned to his ability to think, and his thinking continued to be active. Recalling the introduction about mindfulness in a previous life. The development of mind ability is divided into 6 major categories, which are: enhanced department, transformation, operation, release, embodied trait. There is no strong or weak ability in the 6 major categories, and the 6 major categories have their own characteristics. Usually, each ability person has a certain department to which he belongs, and this talent is inherent and irreversible. But there are also special cases. In some extreme circumstances, the department to which one belongs will be transformed into one of the 2 adjacent departments. The best way to identify your own genus is, Mizu-sami. Strengthen the system, enhance the attack and defense of oneself or other objects. With Mizu-hime, the total amount of water will increase. The system of change. The system of change can change the shape and nature of chi. With Mizu-hiki, the taste of water changes. The operating system, which injects gas into objects for manipulation. In the water sea style, the leaves will move randomly. The release system can release gas from the body and maintain its power. The water sees the system, and the color of the water changes. Incarnate system has the ability to turn chi into real objects. When you see the water, crystals will appear in the water. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Traits. The abilities of traits are mysterious and unpredictable. In the water-seeing style, the phenomena that are different from those of the other 5 elements are all characteristic elements. The water glass on the table was filled with water and a leaf was placed. Pam was a little excited, took a deep breath, put his hands on the water glass, and started one of the 4 majors, one of the 4 just getting started, fa. With a light hack, Pam's breath wrapped around the water cup along his hands, and immediately changed. I saw the leaves in the water glass sink into the bottom of the water glass and slowly disappear, and a black cross phantom appeared in the water. This is... I'm a trait type? A trait type. Pam tested it twice, and it was still the same phenomenon, so he had no doubt that he was a trait type, not the embodiment type he thought. Recalling the trait department, Patch was so excited that he couldn't help but want to laugh. Because the ability of the trait system is the most mysterious and unpredictable. Pam is also full of expectations for the mind ability that he can develop. I have determined that my mind ability belongs. Although Pam wants to practice and read the skills according to the original plan, but his mind has always been difficult, and he can't practice at all. He can only lie on the bed and keep thinking about the development of mind ability things, looking out the window. The gloomy night sky of Meteor Street, is also unable to sleep. As soon as the sun rose in the morning, Pam packed up everything and arrived at the meeting place. But after waiting for a long time, no one in the same team appeared, and I couldn't help but make a drop. Are you off today? Why didn't you all come? Thinking about it, after waiting for almost an hour, no one came, not even Varuni, who always likes to call him from behind. So I decided to visit the place where Varuni lives. Varuni, are you at home? Pam knocked on Varuni's door, and after waiting for a while, he found that there was still no answer in the house. Can only turn around and leave. In the morning, because the places they were assigned to live were not far from each other, Pam soon ran all over the houses of 6 teammates. Standing at Daryl's house, looking at the closed doors and windows, for a while, the bad premonition in my heart became stronger and stronger. Isn't everything going to happen? Although they are only teammates who are searching for supplies, but after getting along for a long time, they finally have feelings. And people from the same team didn't come today, it's too strange. Although there are occasionally 1 or 2 people who don't come, but like today, all of them didn't come, and everyone didn't tell themselves. Thinking of this, Pam was not in the mood to wait any longer. Go to Ben's. Wei Wei thought for a moment. Now in order to find out what happened, the only way is to go to the manager of Meteor Street. Maybe others don't know, but if Daryl and the other 6 are really dead, as the person who supervises the streets, must know. Because here, people are also a kind of property. And with his current strength, he has absolute confidence and mastery of the foundation of mind. The strength of the 4 elements is Pam's reliance and a symbol of status. Get out of the way for me. Before Pam could turn around, a shout came from behind. At first glance, Pam found out that it turned out to be Benz's subordinate and the seconding command of Meteor Street, Neville. Pam's face darkened. What are you doing? Pam's voice was suppressed. You don't care what we do, get out if you don't want to die. Before Neville could speak, the 4 men who followed, the young man with the coxcomb head, heard Pam's question, and shouted to Pam directly. Hearing this, because everyone was gone today, Pam's suppressed heart burst open, and his whole body exudes an aura that makes people feel fearful when looking at it from a distance. Speak. What are you doing here? I'll kill you if you don't say anything. Looking at the 5 people surrounded by them, Pam was not afraid, and threatened directly. This person is not easy to mess with. Looking at his 4 subordinates, their faces pale, and then feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Pam, Neville suddenly had his own judgment in his heart. As one of the seconding command of the camp managers in the many streets of Meteor Street, he is also the existence of awakened mind. Moreover, he considers himself a mid-level expert, and when he sees Pam's depressed expression, he also understands that this person is definitely awakened. Awakened people are not easy to mess with. But I'm not necessarily afraid. I can't tell you what our Blood Wolf gang does. Neville also said with a depressed expression. When Pam heard this, his whole body burst into anger. Don't tell me. I'll die. Pam's voice was full of anger. Look who dies. After Neville finished speaking, he rushed towards Pam and punched Pam in the face. Good day. Pam also discovered that Neville was also an awakener of mind. Since awakening Nian, I haven't played against other people yet. I only know that now I can knock down 100 of myself that I haven't awakened before. The fists that wrapped Nian suddenly collided. Ah! Neville called out, feeling the sharp pain in his arm. Pam didn't wait for him to make any move, and stubbornly kicked Neville's stomach with all his strength, and Neville flew out. Seeing that his boss had already shot, he flew back at once. The 4 men Neville brought over immediately forgot the fear just now, and instantly took out the weapon he carried with him and rushed towards Pamphlet. Come over. Kill. Kill, go on, kill him. Looking at the 4 people rushing over, Pam felt that their speed was like that of a turtle. He just stepped up sideways, dodged the swinging knife, stood on the right side of one of them, and faced his neck directly, a knife in hand. Click, instant death. In just 4 seconds, in the same way, Pam directly killed all 4 of Neville's men. Then, standing in front of Neville who had risen from the ground, he asked, Are you willing to say it now? Neville didn't even look at the 4 men who fell to the ground, and looked into Pam's eyes. We're here to clean up the house. The situation is stronger than people, and Neville also knows that, let alone, this person in front of him will definitely kill him. In Meteor Street, there are many people who are not afraid of death, but there are more people who cherish their lives. Neville was one of them. How did he die? What about the other people in the same team as him? Pam's calm face was already filled with tears when he asked this. In fact, when he saw Neville and the others, Pam also knew in his heart that Daryl and Varuni were definitely less fortunate. It's one thing to just understand in your heart, but it's another thing to accept it or not. As the manager of the street, he wouldn't show up in someone else's house, unless that person died. They were responsible for cleaning up the estate and keeping it for themselves until the next person moved in. At the bar last night, he was killed by someone from another team. All dead. Anyway, people didn't kill him, and the account can't be counted on his head. As for the few subordinates who died, they died. If you die, you can recruit again, and a lot of people are willing to work for him. That team. The team led by Boner Neville didn't dare to hide it either. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com directly stated the identity of the murderer. What about the corpse? It's all eaten. Neville replied calmly, as if he had just eaten a meal, nothing to brag about. Human corpses are also a kind of food in Meteor Street. And a freshly killed corpse is still good meat, not comparable to the inferior meat that has been killed by viruses. Every day in Meteor Street, people die because of conflicts, and the dead bodies are either eaten by the perpetrators or eaten by them. As for the murderer, as long as you are strong enough or pay enough price, they will not care whether you kill or not. Buried there? Pam asked about the bones. The corpse was eaten, and I was already prepared. After all, I lived in Meteor Street, where there was a shortage of meat. As soon as Pam's words came out, Neville knew that he would not be killed. Suddenly he breathed a sigh of relief. Over there in the cemetery. The inheritance of several of them belongs to me. It is good. Pam turned around and violently broke open Daryl's door. Walked in. Daryl, go all the way. I hope you won't come back to Meteor Street in the next life. Pam muttered something to himself, and then started to rummage through the box. After moving for a day, Pam only took the inheritance of the 6 of them and moved them into his own house. He also found a lot of food and water they stored, enough for Pam to eat alone for more than half a month. On the other hand, as the manager of 7th Street, seeing his seconding command came back with the bodies of his 4 men, he was also furious. Banz's authority was challenged. What's the matter? Banz asked Neville directly. Seeing that his subordinates were killed, Banz was also in a rage. He was a master, he was killed by him. Oh! Hearing Neville's words, he also said oh. Neville's strength, he still understands, although not as strong as himself, but not bad. Moreover, Neville also has the special ability that is difficult to deal with. He can be called a master by him. He is definitely an awakener, and his strength is very strong. What about others? I don't know yet, but he should be looking for trouble with Boner tonight. He is one with the person who died last night. Find him. Trash. After saying that, Banz turned around and went back to the house. After seeing Banz turn around, Neville turned to his back, bowed his head and smiled, as if nothing had happened. At night, the bar. Pam, who has been standing outside the door of the bar, exudes an aura that no one is near. Pam. A call woke Pam from his thoughts. Looking at Neville, Pam didn't speak. Our helper wants to chat with you. Neville didn't care about Pam's attitude, and said again. Wait until I finish killing people. After speaking, there was a moment of silence, and Neville shrugged and stood aside. They're here. Neville reminded aloud. Bonjour. Pam looked at the 13 people approaching, some of whom were still injured. Pam stood directly in the middle of the road and asked the leader. Who is your kid? When someone stopped him, Bang was very upset. Last night, you killed 6 people. Hearing Pam's words, Boner and his party immediately surrounded Pam vigilantly. Killed? What's the matter? If you want to take revenge, it's up to you. Banger looked disdainful and gave a wink to the person next to him. Bang! Bang! The sound of 2 objects colliding came directly. Pam, who was standing in the crowd, still maintained a gesture of waving his elbows. A person has already fallen under his feet, and his life and death are unknown. The corner of Boner's slightly disdainful mouth instantly turned gloomy. Go on, kill him. Boner called out directly. Kill, kill. The people surrounding Pam all pulled out their weapons hidden on their bodies, and swung towards Pam. Oh! Pam didn't show any resistance, and his palms turned into knives. Instantly facing the neck of the person who rushed over, it was a hand knife. The method of death was directly the same as the 4 people in the morning. They were all cut off their necks and killed with one blow. You're the only one left, Boner. Boner looked terrified. All 12 of his subordinates were killed. Boner just turned around and ran away. Pam came up later, grabbed the back of Boner's head, and pressed it directly to the ground. Bang! Boner fell directly to the ground. Last night, you killed Daryl and the other 6, right? Pam stepped on Boner's back and asked another question to confirm. It was Lao Tzu who killed him, so what can you do? Neng Bang who was lying on the ground, shouted back with a face in response. It's fine with you. After that, Pam slammed the back under his feet. Suddenly, Boner died of anger. Seeing Pam kill everyone, Neville came up from behind. It's done? Let's go. Pam didn't speak, picked up a knife scattered on the ground, and cut off the heads of the 13 boner people. Seeing boners move, Neville's face also became a little ugly. In this world, there is a rumor that after a person dies, if the body is separated, then the person's soul will never rest in peace. I'm going to the cemetery. Pam picked up the wrapper containing 13 human heads, said a word, and left without waiting for a reply. Neville didn't answer, just stared at the back of Pam's departure, smiled sinisterly, and turned away. As for the corpses on the ground, someone will clean it up. Standing on the cemetery, burying the head beside the newly erected wooden cross, Pam said in a faint voice, Valuni, Quen. Daryl. Rest in peace. Farewell. After speaking, Pam turned around and walked out of the cemetery, where someone was waiting for him. Just as he stepped out of the cemetery, Pam saw a figure standing there. Needless to say, the big man in front of him is the manager of 7th Street, Banses. Pam was not afraid, and went up to meet him directly. You are Pam? Pam Inozil. Looking at Pam who was approaching, the big man, namely Banses, who was holding his arms on his chest, asked directly. I am Mr. Banses. Pam answered directly when he heard Banses' words. Oh! Do you know me? Looking at the boy standing less than 10 meters in front of him, Banses was a little surprised. Because although he stood here and didn't move, he exuded a human-like evil thought, and it was only aimed at the young man in front of him. But looking at Pam turning a blind eye, it seemed that nothing had changed on the surface, but in fact he had already given Pam a high evaluation in his heart. I think on 7th Street, no one doesn't know you. After all, I'm also one of the residents of 7th Street. Banses is looking at Pam, why isn't Pam looking at Banses? And it also exudes that targeted evil thoughts. You dare to kill my subordinates. You are very courageous. Have you figured out how to die? Banses made it clear that he wanted to kill Pam. A boss without prestige will never be able to convince the public. It's just a misunderstanding. I also want to try my current level. As soon as he finished speaking, Pam immediately exploded the chi in his body and took the lead in attacking. Charged towards Banses. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Banses shouted and punched Pam, who was rushing towards him. Pam lowered his head and bent his waist, dodging the oncoming straight punch. With both hands on the ground, the whole person is like a flexible monkey, and it hits Banses directly. Boom! The collision of meat and meat caused both of them to take a few steps back. A tentative confrontation just now, let each other very solemnly observe the opponent. Come again. When Banses saw Pam's strength, he was also inspired. Think he was a belligerent back then. Come on. Pam is also fearless, and once again joins forces with Banses. Since the opening of the sperm hole, he has not met a person worthy of his full strength. He wants to take advantage of today's opportunity to test his own strength. The two of them were in a ball. Banses, who was in the reinforcement system, was like an angry bull. His fists were always straight and heavy. Pam, on the other hand, is extremely flexible, dodging left and right. There is no way for Banses' attack to hit Pam directly. Absolutely not to be hit. The more the battle, the more courageous. Pam, under the heavy punch of Banses, was distracted and thought about it, and then he concentrated on the battle. Bang! Bang! Bang bang bang! When Banses looked at Pam, who had been dodging his own attacks and counter-attacking flexibly, he was very angry. He touched the chest where he had just been punched again. If it hadn't been for the defense of his own mind, he would definitely have been seriously injured. Thinking of this, Banses said to Pam. Little devil, don't hide if you have something. When Pam heard this, he immediately laughed. Don't hide? Wait to die. Join if you can't beat it. This is Pam's most real thought right now. Mr. Banses, how about I join you? Taking advantage of the gap between the fights, Pam said to Banses. Banses didn't respond, he just bullied him, and every blow was a heavy punch. Banses, who is fighting seriously, is not something that the current Pam can resist at all. In just 2 minutes, Pam can only be forced to defend, and there is no way to cause any damage to Banses. Looking at the potholes on the ground around you, you can see how heavy Benzes's fist is. These were all punched by Banses when Pam was beaten to the ground and rolled to dodge. I'm much more useful than the 4 men before you. Once again, he escaped from Benzes' attack range. The pain of the broken bones of Pam's ninja arm continued to speak to Banses. Benzes watched silently, his left hand covering his right arm, Pam gasping for breath. You know the consequences. Pam knew what Benzes meant. I know, Mr. Banses. No, helper. Pam responded directly. That's good. I'll give you 3 days. As soon as he finished speaking, Banses turned and left. Seeing the back of Benzes leaving, Pam immediately sat on the ground. Endured the pain, baring his teeth, recalling the battle just now. The current self is too far behind. Regardless of strength, experience, use of mind, intuition in battle, and belief in battle, they are completely suppressed and at a disadvantage. After sitting for a while and regaining some strength, Pam returned home with all the injuries. 3 days passed in a hurry. On the surface, Pam couldn't see any injuries. Only the wooden clip on his right arm showed that Pam's right hand had a share. During the trip to the cemetery 3 days ago, Pam already had a certain understanding of his own mind ability and ideas for development. Help Master, I'm here. As soon as he arrived at the Blood Wolf Gang's station, Pam was led and saw Banses again. Speaking to Banses. Go to Neville, he will arrange it for you. From now on, you will be the third in command of the Blood Wolf Gang, responsible for street cleaning. As soon as he joined the Blood Wolf Gang, Pam was assigned the position of third in command, and whether he could convince the public or not, it was not up to him. If you don't have that ability, you'd better just die. So as not to insult those who are capable of thinking these 4 words. Turning around and exiting the door, Pam saw Neville who was waiting for him. Hi. Pam. Welcome to the Blood Wolf Gang. Seeing Pam, Neville said with a smile on his face, as if the conflict a few days ago didn't exist, and it seemed like an old friend who had known each other for many years. What should I do? The helper asked me to follow your arrangement. Pam also said with a smile. Don't worry about it, the wound on your hand is still not healed. The ground floor has been arranged, come with me. Pam stepped to keep up, and they talked a lot on the road for 2 days. Pam's main job is to clean up heritage houses on the street. Here it is. This is where you will live in the future. Just tell the people below if you need anything. The daily necessities are all arranged. Standing in front of the door of a house, Neville spoke directly to Pam. Okay. Thank you. It's okay, I'll go first. Walk slowly. Pam stood in front of the door and watched Neville leave. When the corner disappeared, Neville turned to Pam and said, by the way, there is one more thing, your own men need to find it yourself. Okay, I know. After Pam finished speaking, Neville turned around and disappeared from Pam's sight. Pam pushed open the door, the new house was no different from the previous one. There are all the daily necessities inside, and there is no shortage of food and water. They come, the security. Pamu also adapted directly. Until noon, Pam called a few people who were idle in the gang and brought in those things from the old house. Master Pam, is there anything else we need to do? No more, thank you. To see. It should be, Lord Pam, then it's fine, we'll go first. Tuss said goodbye. Okay, let's go first. Right. Follow me to do things in the future, I'll take care of it from the helper. Remembering that he has no one under his command now, Pam told to see directly. Ah! Lord Pam, really? To see asked with excitement and disbelief. Why, don't you want to? Pam looked at to see and asked lightly. Yes, yes. Thank you, Lord Pam, thank you. To see's words were incoherent in excitement. Like him, this is simply a good thing to reach the sky in one step and fall into the sky. A fool doesn't want it. Okay, then let's go first. By the way, you can find 3 people to follow you, and you can follow me together in the future. Okay. Lord Pam, I'll make arrangements. Then I'll go first. Go. Tuss left Pam's house with a look of excitement. Oh! I'm finally done. In a blink of an eye, more than 3 months passed, and Pam also adapted to the life in the Blood Wolf gang. When he had nothing to do, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com quietly cultivated his mind ability in the house. Do it with a few people. After 3 months of hard training, Pam directly developed his ability to read. Just haven't had the chance to experiment. The strength has also improved a lot than before. If she just kept practicing, Pam could already last an hour. According to the statement in memory, that is to say, Pamu's ability to read skills refinement has been successfully qualified. But it's just a pass. Lord Pam, the helper will inform you to discuss the matter over there. To see's voice came from outside the door. I see. Pam woke up from his practice and responded lightly. Opening the door, looking at to see outside the door, Pamu asked directly, what happened? My subordinates don't know. It's just that the leader seems to be very angry. To see replied with a look of horror, as if he was frightened. Then let's go. Pamu walked directly to the conference hall with a thoughtful look on her face, making it impossible to understand what she was thinking. After Tuss closed the door, he also followed closely behind Pam and walked towards the conference hall. As soon as I arrived outside the conference hall, I felt the angry thoughts inside, and my heart sank. It's getting stronger again, Benzes. Help master, I'm here. What's wrong? Pushing open the door of the conference hall, Pam looked at Benzes sitting alone and asked directly. When Benzes saw Pam coming in, he immediately said, Neville was killed. After speaking, Benzes suppressed evil thoughts, as if he had found a vent, pressed directly towards Pam like a flood, directly making Pam gasp for breath. Pam looked even more unbelievable. Who did it? Pam asked with difficulty. Can't. Benzes said through gritted teeth. What? Pam exclaimed directly. In half a year, since the last time we met, Pam hadn't seen Kent. Pam was a little surprised to hear his news this time. It's Kent. That bastard. Speaking of Kent, Benzes burst into anger. Why? Pam was puzzled, why did Kent kill Neville? Living on 7th Street, no one would not know that Neville was a member of the Blood Wolf gang, and if he killed him, he would suffer revenge from the Blood Wolf gang. Let everyone go out and find him. I'm going to kill him with my own hands. Do you understand? Benzes slapped the table with his hand, and the table fell straight down. He said to Pam with a fierce look on his face. Benzes didn't care why Kent killed Neville, but as the manager of 7th Street, he felt a great provocation. His seconding command, Neville, who was also a psychic, was killed. If he couldn't kill the murderer, he will directly destroy the prestige. So when he heard the news, he had nowhere to vent his anger. Okay. I get it. I'll find him. Pamu looked at Benzes's appearance and knew that this matter was no longer good. The only thing he could do was to give a formal assurance to Benzes. Just after walking out of the conference hall, Pam shouted to Tassi, who was waiting on the left, Tassi, call everyone, no matter what method you use, before the sun goes down, I want to find Kent. Do you understand? understood. As soon as Tassi said it, he called everyone in the gang out and searched for Kent all over the street. Pam stood attentively in front of the gate of the station, because he spread out all the people under his command, making the station seem a little lonely. In addition to feeling the malice emanating from the council chamber, Pam also felt the slightest chill. Suddenly, Pam jumped straight back. He retreated 5 meters, staring vigilantly at the figure appearing in the shadow in front of him. Ding, ding, ding. 2 meters behind the place where Pam stood just now, 3 flying knives were directly inserted into the ground. Pam, long time no see. The figure walking out greeted Pam. Yet. Long time no see. Kent. However, the way you say hello is really special. Pam became nervous when he saw Kent's appearance. He greeted him as if he didn't care at all. Hearing the movement at the door, Banses also walked out of the conference hall directly. You are Kent. How dare you appear here, don't you hide like a mouse. Banses gritted his teeth and fought back his anger to attack Kent. Mr. Banses, first meeting. Kent greeted Banses with a smile as if he didn't notice Banses' anger. After speaking, 3 throwing knives appeared in Kent's hands, and they threw them directly at Pam and Banses. Pam and Banses both burst out of thought and escaped. Suddenly, a figure rushed towards Pam very quickly. Danger! Looking at the rushing figure, Pam felt the fatal danger, but he found that he seemed to have no way to escape. He could only passively mobilize the chi in his body, wrapped around his body, and crossed his hands, ready to forcefully take it. This sudden attack. Bang! 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 The expected pain did not come, but it was discovered that Banses and the figure who rushed over were fighting. Neville! Have you figured out the price for betraying me? Banses roared directly at the figure. It turned out that the figure that rushed out was Neville, the second in command of the Blood Wolf gang. He was not killed by Kent as Banses said. And the strength displayed is also very strong. Suddenly, Pam thought a lot. Pam wanted to speak, but he didn't know how to speak, so he could only raise his voice and say, I didn't betray, I just wanted to kill you. Neville looked calm. Oh. Is that so? If you can do it, try it. Pam, hold on to Kent, I'm going to kill them today. Banses said something to Neville and his back to Pam. Preemptive strike, Banses bullied himself and punched Neville. Seeing that Banses had already made his move, Pam also wanted to strike directly at Kent, but before he could make any move, he saw another flying knife flying towards him at a very fast speed. Pam looked at the flying knife, but had no choice but to dodge sideways. Pam, come on. To thank you, I'll kill you today. Kent's sincere tone was as if he was really thanking Pam. Seeing Pam dodging and attacking with his own throwing knives, Kent charged at Pam with a knife in his left and right hands. Pam was helpless, so he could only concentrate and watch Kent's attack. The attack from the attack made him unable to take care of him. Brush! Brush! The sound of 2 knives slicing through the air at great speed. Pam could only dodge the oncoming attack with the same speed. Taking advantage of the weapon, Kent was able to attack without giving up. He launched continuous attacks, but failed to cause damage to Pam, but because of the attack, a lot of anger erupted. Falling into a trap carefully devised by Pam. Do it all at once, second time tired, third time exhausted. Chance. Pam, who had been avoiding the attack, caught Kent's attack and immediately reacted in his heart. Stepping the slate, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com lifted a floor and flew towards Kent. When the slate blocked Kent's sight, Pam used the absolute technique and disappeared directly in Kent. Within the sight range, within the perception. Kent dodged directly, and wanted to find Pam. Disappeared. Kent suddenly felt bad. Startled. I just wanted to stay away from the battle, but there was a sharp pain in my heart. Only said you. I closed my eyes forever. It turned out that it was Pam who directly pierced his left chest with a hand knife from behind him, and Pam directly penetrated his heart. Good way, Kent. Pulling out his right hand that passed through his chest, Kent's body fell directly under Pam's feet. After killing Kent, Pam was also stunned for a moment, and he was a little out of breath. Although the gas volume was already qualified, the gas volume that exploded in an instant in the Battle of the Minders made Pam's gas volume almost to the limit. He could only hold his right hand full of blood and stand aside, watching the battle between Banses and Kent. The strength of Banses and Neville is obviously more than double that of IPA. Moreover, Banses seemed to take the initiative and kept pressing Neville to attack, but there was no way to cause any damage to him at all. Instead, Banses suffered 2 injuries. By looking at it, Banses' fist full of thoughts, the moment it hit Neville, seemed to be slid away and landed elsewhere. And Neville seemed to be preparing something in his hand, and he was going to kill Banses with one blow. Watching the battle between Banses and Neville, the smooth tracks of the psychic ability that were about to be covered all over the ground, Banses was in danger. Dangerous, the ground. Father, like son. Pam quickly saw from the side that the telekinesis on the ground was definitely a trap designed by Neville for Banses. Looking at Banses who was about to fall into the trap, Pam called out the danger and alerted Banses. Pam's voice behind him also made the battle-hardened Banses startled, and instinctively jumped to a height of more than 50 meters in the sky, with condensation in his eyes instantly. Looking at the shocking ability of mind on the battlefield, Banses directly condensed his chi under his feet and used his training. And according to the gas volume, the power is definitely not small. Pam directly retreated again. I saw that Banses fell on the spot again, but like a huge weight falling from the sky, a layer of dust was stirred up, followed by a loud bang. A wave of air was stirred up, blowing Pam's black hair and clothes. Immediately after that, there was another sound of bang, and a figure flew out from the air wave and hit the wall of the station at once, causing the wall to collapse. Neville, who flew out, also vomited blood and died. I can no longer feel any breath of life. When the air wave dissipated, I saw Banses gasping for breath, standing on the cracked ground, with a shocking wound on his chest and blood gushing out. Pam, take care of this. Banses looked at Pam fiercely and gave an order. Yet. Pam responded directly. After Pam responded, Banses turned around and walked into the house. Passing Pam's side gave Pam a desperate pressure to die. After getting out of Banses' pressure range, Pam asked again, "Help Master, Neville, is he a psychic of the transformation department? What do you want to say?" Pam fled. The pressure that had just faded was on his body again. "I'm just curious, my mind power seems to be of the transformation system." Pam touched his head and responded. Yet. Banses gave an answer that was both acceptable and continued to walk back into the house. Pam carried Kent and Neville's bodies one by one and walked towards the outer cemetery. The gang members who met on the road also told them to go directly to the station to clean up the site that was damaged by the battle. Entering the cemetery again, Pam nervously buried Kent and Neville separately. Just after burying Neville, Pam's thoughts were involuntarily inspired and manifested. Cross tombstone entity. Pam put the cross in front of Neville's tomb, and saw that the entire tomb seemed to be wrapped in something. Then I saw the tombstone of the cross, and the portrait of Neville and the words Neville Girigil, the one with the ability to change the mind automatically appeared. Then the tombstone of the cross disappeared into the air as if it had never existed. And Pam, who felt that there was something in his thoughts, went straight back to the station. Because the traces of the noon battle are also being repaired. To see, you are in charge of the station today. The gang leader and I are not coming out. No one is allowed to disturb him. Pam found Tassi and said directly to Tassi. Yes. Lord Pam. He was about to reach the sky in one step. Tuss thought happily. Back in the room, Pam couldn't wait to test his psychic abilities again with the water-seeing method. I found that I really had an extra change system attribute. This is the trait that Pam developed, the continuation of the burial. As long as the dead telepathic person is buried with his own hands, Pam can obtain the telepathic ability affiliation that the telepathic person had during his lifetime. In order to quickly develop his mind ability, Pam also set special restrictions for his own mind ability. The buried corpse cannot be killed by one's own hands. This is also why Pam buried Neville and Kent, two psychic powers, and only got Neville's transformation system, but not Kent's manifested psychic ability. You can only get the continuation of the mind ability, and you cannot get the ability of the other party. That's why Pam didn't get Neville's ability to smooth his mind. If you want to get the ability, you can only develop the mental ability of the genus through yourself. Pam wants to meet the deceased. Understand the other party's ability to read before his death. At least the deceased should know Pam's name. That's why Pam asks Benzes about the Nevinian abilities. This is the activation condition that Pam set for his ability to develop in advance. Given the special limitations of his ability, Pam will not know the limitations until he is familiar with it later. In the blink of an eye, 10 days later, since the last battle resumed, Pam has become the seconding command of the Blood Wolf Gang. Benzes also personally took over all the affairs of the station, as if he was not at ease with Pam, worried that he would also betray him. Now, Pam just arranges for the people in Meteor Street to receive protective clothing every morning. When there is a death conflict in Meteor Street, they clean up the estate of the deceased. Other matters, such as handing in the materials searched by people who go out every night, and checking the population of Meteor Street, are all arranged by Benzes to do it. Unlike before, Benzes only cultivates his mind ability in the room every day. There is basically no major event. Both were handled by Neville and Pam. Pam is also happy to relax, reading www.uuganshu.com. He is currently developing the telekinesis of the transformation system in the room. Even the task arranged by Benzes was done by Tassi and his 3 men. How exactly can we make changes in our thoughts? Pam has been thinking about this issue for a few days now, holding 2 solid iron rods tightly in his hand, and from time to time, he forced the 2 iron rods to collide with each other, creating a vibrational force. And use your body and mind to feel the vibrating power. In the previous life, Pam, who was an anime nerd, yearned for him to be like the Whitebeard in One Piece, holding the power of vibration in his hand. The ultimate strength can even shatter space. After obtaining the change attribute, Pam has been practicing the development of the change ability, but the progress is slow. While feeling the power of vibration, I recalled everything about the power of vibration. Slowly Pam seemed to have lost his soul, his pupils lost focus, but the sound of the 2 iron rods in his hands colliding from time to time, let people know that he was still alive. The power of vibration has the characteristics of suddenness, verticality, and continuation. The strong vibration force can cause huge damage in a few seconds or tens of seconds. I don't know how long it took, 1 second? 1 day? Or a year? Pam, whose eyes were out of focus, seemed to be unaware of his condition, and still kept beating the 2 iron bars in his hands from time to time. Pam, who was originally standing in the room, was covered in blood, and his skin was open and fleshy, and he looked like an evil ghost returning from hell. Pam's thoughts, like the power of vibration, kept vibrating. And every time Pam's thoughts vibrated, the wound on Pam's body would have one more wound, which made people feel even more shocking. Boom crack, the 2 consecutive voices made Pam wake up from the lost soul, followed by exhaustion and severe pain, hitting Pam like a tidal wave. Pam, who was originally standing, sat on the ground in an instant. Seeing that he was covered in wounds, the bones in his left hand should have been broken, because Pam could no longer use his strength. The chi in his body is also completely consumed. Looking at his state, Pam was also bewildered, not knowing what happened. Didn't he practice his mind power well in the room? What's going on? The confused Pam directly used the absolute power of mind power to tighten and isolate the chi and aura of the whole body, so that his sense of existence changed to be weak. In the absolute state, although the defense power of the mind attack is close to zero, entering a state of extreme fatigue can help restore physical strength and relieve injuries. For 7 days in a row, Pam didn't take a step out of the room. The food and water were brought in by his subordinates. Although Pam's wound gauge on the surface had healed, but the broken left hand, Pam estimated that at least 1 month of recovery time. After reinvigorating his thoughts, Pam found that his thoughts could already be turned into the power of vibration, but he also understood that his injury was also caused by his own thoughts, the power of vibration. Because Pam discovered that using the power of vibration has 2 conditions. The power of the vibration force is determined by its own strength and the amount of air it uses. If you want to use the power of vibration, your body needs to bear the damage that the power of vibration can bring. In other words, the greater the power of the vibration force used, the greater the damage to the body. When Pam thought of this, he had a headache, but the path he chose was still in tears and crying. Bang! Bang! Bang bang bang! A year and a half has passed in a hurry, and it has been 2 years since the sperm hole was opened. For more than a year, Pam has basically practiced boxing in the no man's land outside the station, using the power of vibration to exercise his body. The sound coming from the air was exactly the sound produced by Pam using the power of vibration to vibrate the air when he practiced boxing, and the surrounding vibrations also fluctuated as Pam punched. Originally some thin body also exercised at will into six-pack abs. With 2 years of mindfulness training and physical exercise, Pam has been able to refine and develop the application skills of mindfulness for more than 3 hours, and has initially learned all the advanced application skills of mindfulness: condensing, round, hidden, jo, flow, firm, hard. Although the advanced combat skills, jo, flow, hard, are only a preliminary grasp, and it is a little difficult to use in the ever-changing battle, it is also a huge improvement and an extraordinary improvement in strength. Jo, the application technique of wrap, which uses the technique of wrapping one's own mind to wrap it around the object that is in contact with the body, so that the properties of the object are strengthened, called Jo. Flow, the technique of changing the body's offensive and defensive power by adjusting the amount of qi in a specific part of the body. Jian, the advanced applied skills of winding and training, using more qi than usual to wrap the body to strengthen one's own offensive and defensive skills. Hard, it is a high-level applied skill that combines the 5 skills of wrapping, training, absolute, hair, and condensation. It's time to go back. As the sun went down, Pam's day of practice came to an end. In the past month, Pamu has found that her strength has become extremely difficult to improve in all directions. This is what Pam calls the limit of talent, a person's aptitude and potential. Pam also discovered that his vibrational power had entered a complete limit state since 3 months ago, and he also discovered that the continuation of the burial itself has limitations. The limit of ability development and use is the upper limit that the burial person has during his lifetime. Master Pam, you're back. As soon as he returned to the station, the guard at the door greeted Pam, who nodded slightly. Lord Pam, Lord Ban says, if you come back, let you go to him. The guard said again. Okay, I see. Go and inform the helper. I'll go when I get back. Yes. The guard just walked away. After a while, Pam came to Bansa's house after taking a bath. Help master, what do you have to do with me? Pam opened the door and asked Benzes, who was sitting in the house. Pam. Sit down. Pam just sat down. I'm going to leave Meteor Street, Pam. Oh. Is that so? Congratulations. There are 2 ways to leave Meteor Street. One is to get a Meteor Street pass after being approved by the elders. The second is smuggling. That's right, it's smuggling away. But the second method is very difficult, as long as it is discovered, it will definitely be a life or death punishment. The elders will never allow anyone to challenge their power and status. Pam didn't ask Benzes to leave Meteor Street in that way, just congratulated him. Are you willing to leave with me? Banthes directly stated the real purpose of looking for Pam. And stared at Pam with burning eyes. Pam lowered his head and pondered for a while, then shook his head, ignoring Banthes' eyes and evil thoughts that turned to cannibals, refused, it's difficult. I don't want to leave here. Hearing Banthes' invitation, Pam already knew that Banthes definitely left Meteor Street through the second method. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. In the past, it was not that no one thought of leaving Meteor Street by smuggling. But every time, it was just a corpse that was sent back by the Council of Elders. Even if Pam wanted to open it, he would only pass the first method. Find a way to get a permit. I don't want to collect the body for you. Pam said again. I don't have a choice. Then I wish you good luck. After tomorrow, I will take over all the affairs of the gang. After speaking, Pam turned and left. Without a choice, Pam knew that Banthes was definitely not a native of Meteor Street, but a person who was abandoned on Meteor Street by the outside world, not a forgotten person like Pam. According to the rules of the elders, the abandoned person must not leave the Meteor Street for life. Although, Pam now has a certain strength, but he understands that he is definitely not the opponent of the elders for the time being. Since he can't beat him and wants to leave, he can only use the first method. Pam took over the affairs of the Blood Wolf gang in an all-round way, but it was just a cover for Banthes. Walking out of the room, Pam also figured out why Banthes would be so angry when he heard that Neville was killed a year and a half ago. And it was not surprising that Neville's resurrection appeared again later. Turns out he already knew. Tassie, come find me tonight. Pam decided to forcibly help Tassie open the sperm hole until he gave Tassie an order. At least the danger of opening the sperm hole. Tassie will naturally take it. At about 10 o'clock in the evening, Pam, who was sitting in the room, was practicing. Knock, 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 Lord Pam, here I come. Tuss's voice came from outside the door. Come in. The door is unlocked. After another 2 months, since the last meeting with Banthes, Pam has taken over the affairs of the Blood Wolf gang. Banthes has not been seen for a week and quietly left 5 days ago. Lord Pam, help Master, he died. The fiery Tassie immediately rushed open the door of the conference hall and said to Pam, who was cultivating in horror. Pam opened his eyes and said calmly, I see. Take care of your subordinates, wait for me to come back. Then he got up and walked out of the station. Pa. Tassie, who was following Pam, wanted to say something, but found that he couldn't say anything. The news of Banthes' death will definitely cause turmoil in the streets and the Blood Wolf gang. Within the Blood Wolf gang, Pam believes that Tassie will handle it. If a telepath can't even handle this, Pam doesn't mind, and someone else will be in the position. As for the turmoil on the street, when he returns, he will naturally do it himself, and he can only do it himself. At the exit of Meteor Street and the entrance of the garbage dump, many residents of Meteor Street are watching the corpse with 1,000 guns and holes hanging on the flagpole. Judging from the injuries of the corpse, we know what Banthes suffered before his death. Such torture! A man with short white hair was sitting under the flagpole, and Pam recognized him. Because every time it was time to hand in the tribute, he personally came to collect it. He is the 6th elder directly under the elders, Panamira's subordinate, Cled. Pam walked straight to Cled with a blank face. I took the corpse. Cled looked at Pam, who was approaching, and when he heard Pam's words, he punched Pam directly. In an instant, Pam's body erupted with violent vibration, and he also punched the attacking fist. What? Clee screamed in agony. His entire right hand has been directly blasted by Pam. The whole person also flew out 10 meters away. Clutching his shoulder-length broken right hand, Cled, who was half kneeling on the ground, stared at Pam with hatred and said, "You dare to disobey the order of the elders? One more word, I'll kill you." Pam directly ignored Cled's words and said calmly at him. The evil thoughts in his whole body rushed towards Cled to oppress him. Palame. Before Cled could finish speaking, his body, which was half kneeling on the ground, was kicked out of his head by Pam. Pam directly put Benzessa's body down, carried it and walked towards the cemetery, until Cled's body, he didn't care. Returning from the cemetery, feeling the newly acquired enhancement attribute in his body, Pam's mouth curled into a faint smile. As for the ability of the enhancement system, Pam also has a direction and plan to develop it. "Master Pam, you're back." Tassi was at the door, and when he saw Pam, he immediately greeted him. Nothing happened at the station. No. Feeling Tassi's vague residual evil thoughts, Pam would never believe Tassi's words. What happened has been dealt with by Tassi. "Well. Gather all the gang members, I have something to announce." "Yes." Tassi ran back with a look of excitement, even knowing what Tassi was thinking. By the time Pam returned to the open space of the station, the remaining 45 members of the Blood Wolf gang had all gathered together. Pam didn't talk nonsense, and said directly, "The gang leader is dead. Now I'm the biggest in the gang, who has an opinion?" "No, I have seen the helper." "All right then, Tassi will be the seconding command of the Blood Wolf gang." Hearing Pam's words, Tassi thought to himself, "Sure enough." Then he assured Pam excitedly, "Thank you, Lord Pam, I will do my best." No one knew how excited Tassi was. "Then I'll leave it to you." After speaking, Pam turned around and went back to his house. He wanted to find a way to deal with the next attack from the sixth elder. That night, Pam, who had no intention of sleeping, was standing on the roof, looking up at the night sky of Meteor Street. "Kill! Kill!" Suddenly, the gate of the station was surrounded by a large group of people and was forcibly broken open. The people of the Blood Wolf gang seemed to have been prepared for a long time. They fought with the intruders with weapons that had been prepared for a long time. The scene was chaotic. Thus Pam called out, "Yes. Lord Pam, let's go. It's my turn to play." As soon as Pam finished speaking, he disappeared from the roof. The center of the melee seemed to freeze, and everyone stopped, and all looked terrified, as if they were being stared at by something terrifying. "The three of you are the initiators." Pam suddenly appeared in front of the three people behind the intruder, startling the three people directly, with a look of horror, unable to even say a word. "You are so weak that you don't even have the resources to be buried by me." Before waiting for the three people in front of them to speak, Pam said again. Looking at the three people in front of him who just awakened their ability to think like Tuss, if it wasn't for establishing a reputation, Pam really didn't even have the desire to shoot. Bang, bang, bang. Feeling the evil thoughts emanating from Pam, the three of them were instantly hit by Pam's heart. She was terrified until she died. Escape. Run away. After seeing the leader of their own family being killed in an instant, those who had already broken into the station were immediately terrified and collapsed. Run away. 1 minute, 1 short minute. The three joined forces, and hundreds of people broke into the Blood Wolf gang's station, and were directly killed by Pam. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. The people of the Blood Wolf gang looked at the corpses everywhere, their eyes lit up, there was so much flesh. Just as Pam killed the 100 people rebellion on Meteor Street, the sixth elder Panamera, who was far away in the central city, also received the news that Cled was killed by Pam. Panamera Manor Lord Elder. A bald young man with crisscrossing scars on his face knelt on one knee and shouted to the old man who was eating on the long dining table. "It's Alex. It's so late, what's the matter?" The old man glanced at the young man kneeling on the ground, and the knife in his hand kept asking the young man. "Yes. Sixth elder, Cled is dead." The old man was using the hands of the knife for a meal, and then continued to cut the unknown meat on the plate, and asked, "How did he die? Who killed him?" "This morning, he died on 7th Street in the 6th District. At that time, he was guarding and found the body of the stowaways the day before yesterday, and was killed by Pam, the current manager of 7th Street." Alex told the truth. 6th Elder, Shikshi Panamera seemed to have nothing at all, just quietly chewing and eating slowly. Alex didn't move either, kneeling like a statue and waiting. Until Hicks swallowed the last bite of food on the plate and wiped his mouth with the paper. "Eris, do you remember my rules?" The calm water-like voice made Alex, who was kneeling on the ground, start sweating. "Remember, Elder. That's good, just follow the rules." After speaking, Hicks stood up, turned and walked towards the room on the second floor. It wasn't until Hicks disappeared from sight that Alex dared to get up from the ground and walked out gently. The strong man irrigated with blood and sweat. This is Pam's ability to intensify his mind-linking ability that he developed today. It complements his own vibrational power and deliberately developed his ability. The inspiration comes from the fighting nation, Scion, in an anime Dragon Ball that I watched in my previous life. The heavier the damage to the body, it can absorb thoughts, speed up the recovery of one's own injuries, and convert the damage to comprehensively strengthen the ability to improve one's physical fitness. In just 2 days, Pam developed this complementary mind ability, mainly because Pam set special restrictions. When cultivating, only the damage caused by the vibration force can absorb the mind. Deliberate combat damage cannot be absorbed. In other words, there is no way to make yourself stronger if you are deliberately injured in battle. The thoughts that are absorbed and strengthen the body are irreversible. It takes effort to gain something. That is, the establishment of the third restriction allowed Pam to develop the ability to strengthen the mind in just 1 day. Just when Pam was complacent about gaining a new ability, there were 2 uninvited guests at the entrance and exit of Meteor Street and Central City. Finally reached. The woman with a fox-beard face among a man and a woman's side. It was as if rushing from Central City to Meteor Street experienced some ordeal. "Don't be emotional, ferocious fox. Hurry up and go back after completing the mission. Boss Alex is still waiting for us to return to his life." The man with a legong face and a pair of long arms said to the woman beside him. The 2 people who rushed to the 7th Meteor Street in the 6th District of the Central City came to carry out the task under the order of Alex, and they were the second of the 5 beasts in the backbone controlled by Paramela. Ferocious Fox and Ferocious Ape. After speaking, the 2 figures disappeared at the intersection of the street at a very fast speed. "According to the information, it should be here, right? Fierce Ape?" The ferocious fox asked the ferocious ape next to him impatiently. "That's right, it's here." "That's good." "Who?" The members of the Blood Wolf gang, who were on duty at night, found the 2 people at the door and asked loudly. "Brush! Brush!" The 2 gang members on duty at night were directly cut off by 2 foxes, one purple and one green, almost 1.5 meters high, walking upright. Looking at the fox's claws, there is no doubt that it is the murder weapon. Afterwards, the 2 foxes directly broke into the residence of the Blood Wolf gang. The people from the Blood Wolf gang came out to die. In the courtyard of the station, more than 10 people who were on patrol at night were killed by 2 people at an extremely fast speed. The man with the code name, Ferocious Ape, was shouting in the center of the courtyard of the station. "Who dares to come to the Blood Wolf gang to make trouble? I haven't seen him, but I've heard his voice." Hearing Fierce Ape's shouting, Tassi, who was cultivating in the room, shouted directly and rushed to the front yard of the station. And other gang members also came out of the room and rushed to the front yard. The Fierce Ape's shout also awakened Pam, who was repairing the house. As soon as he heard the voice, Pam realized that it was definitely the elders who sent someone over. By the time Pam arrived at the front yard, apart from lying at the feet of the female fox, Tassi, who had a lot of air and little air, obviously couldn't survive. The other gang members have been massacred. The front yard was once again as Pam slaughtered the mutineers last night. All gang members were killed. Who are you? As soon as Pam appeared, he directly asked a man and a woman in the yard. To see at the woman's feet, hearing Pam's voice, To see turned his head and looked at Pam tightly, as if he was eager for Pam to save him. Pam didn't even glance at To see, who was lying on the ground, and stared at the men and women who appeared in the front yard. My name is Fierce Fox. He he. While speaking, the woman stomped on To see's head with one foot. Squeak. The two foxes next to the woman also barked. I'm a ferocious ape, we'll send you to hell. After speaking, the man directly attacked Pam with his arms. My name is Pam Inozil. Please remember my name. The chi in Pam's body turned directly into the power of vibration. Shock fist. The fists of the two collided directly, and then Paha and Fierce Ape were both forced to take 3 steps back. Bone is broken. It hurts again. This is the voice of Fierce Ape and Pam. Ferocious Fox, let's go together. Looking at the 2 men and 2 foxes attacking directly, Pam's spirit instantly became 100% focused. Shockwave boom. Pam directly punched the air with all his strength, and the air that was hit, like a ripple, radiated directly to the front. Boom! Boom! The 2 foxes burst like bubbles. The vicious ape and the vicious fox also jumped away directly, sensing the danger in advance and avoiding it. The 3 are facing each other in a triangle. These 2 are the strongest people Pam has encountered so far. Ever since he developed the power of vibration, they are Bansas, and Pam is sure to complete the kill within 10 moves. And these 2 people, Pam from their breath, he felt danger, fatal danger. As the vicious fox's thoughts aroused for a while, the 2 foxes that had just been killed appeared beside her again. At this point, Pam judged that the fierce ape's mind ability is the enhancement type, while the fierce fox's mind is the embodiment type. Mind power is unknown and mind beast fox. The 6th elder must kill me. Pam asked the 2 of them. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. You broke the rules of the elders. Pam thought to himself, sure enough. Since he wanted him to die, Pam wouldn't hold back. During the conversation, the 2 foxes that the vicious fox had discovered, directly charged towards Pam again. Knock step through both feet, step on the power of vibration, and the power of vibration technique with instantaneous speed. Pam directly rushed through the attack gap of the 2 foxes, and charged towards the ferocious fox. Be careful! The vicious ape warns the vicious fox. The ferocious fox was also vigilant, burst out with extremely fast movement speed, and avoided it sideways. What? Although the ferocious fox avoided Pam's direct attack, it couldn't avoid the vibrational force caused by Pam's attack. At close range, the ferocious fox screamed and vomited out a mouthful of blood, causing him to be seriously injured. Pam's sneak attack was a success. The fierce ape watched the fierce fox get injured, and attacked Pam again. The alarm bell rang in Pam's heart, and when it was unavoidable, all the energy in his body erupted directly. There was a fierce offensive and defensive battle with the fierce ape. 30 seconds later, the 2 separated again. Pam also vomited out a mouthful of blood. Kill 1000 enemies, and lose 800. This is the side effect of using the power of vibration. Although fierce ape was also severely injured by the force of the shock, Pam was not feeling well. He was also seriously injured, and his whole body was in severe pain, like being cut by a knife. And the vicious fox, which was just attacked by Pam, took advantage of the time when Pam was fighting with the vicious ape, and directly merged with the 2 beast foxes, and turned into a human-shaped fox with blue and purple patterns. He attacked directly at Pam, and the speed also skyrocketed. Pam is in danger.